Have you ever stopped to wonder if those we truly love, after they depart this world, continue to feel pain, longing, or even regret? Many people believe that death is a final point, an immediate and absolute rest for the soul. But what if I told you that Emmanuel, a spirit who for decades brought profound messages through the psychography of Chico Xavier, revealed something completely different? Something that can change the way you view life, death, and even your relationship with loved ones who have passed? What you're about to discover now may deeply surprise you. Because we're talking about a spiritual reality that is often overlooked, but that may be happening right now with those who were once part of your story. Imagine for a moment that death isn't the end, but merely a passage, a crossing to a plane where consciousness remains alive, carrying with it memories, emotions, and above all, the marks left by the choices made in life. Emmanuel, with his clear and firm wisdom, explained that this passage isn't always peaceful. There are spirits who, even after leaving their physical bodies, continue to suffer, trapped by feelings of pain, grief, or even material attachments. And this challenges the most common beliefs about death, bringing to light a spiritual truth that can cause both shock and reflection. Have you ever experienced this feeling in your heart that a loved one hasn't yet found the peace they deserve? When we look at life only from a material perspective, it's easy to imagine that everything ends with our final breath. However, Emmanuel's messages reveal that the spirit carries with it the weight of unresolved issues, unfulfilled responsibilities, and even the emotional ties left behind on earth. This revelation makes us realize that the spiritual world is an extension of life, where we continue to reap the fruits of the seeds we planted. Stay with me until the end, because understanding this reality can be the first step toward transforming not only how we face death, but also how we live each moment of the present. It's disturbing, but also liberating, to understand that our loved ones may still be undergoing trials after death, not because they were punished, but because divine law is one of constant learning. Emmanuel taught that spiritual pain often arises from awakened consciousness when the spirit realizes the mistakes it made, the opportunities it missed, and the love it failed to express. This insight opens a new perspective. What if what we do here on earth has the power to soothe, console, and even enlighten those who have passed? Have you ever wondered if your prayers, your positive thoughts, and your loving memories can cross dimensions and reach them? Throughout his life, Emmanuel stood side by side with Chico Xavier, conveying messages that challenged materialistic logic and revealed the depth of existence beyond the body. These weren't just words, but teachings imbued with spiritual authority, capable of offering comfort and, at the same time, an urgent reflection on our responsibilities. Because if spirits can still suffer after death, it means that every choice we make in life shapes not only our destiny, but also the journey of those we love. And that's exactly what we'll talk about in this video. Prepare to delve into a revelation that can change the way you view grief, longing, and even your own spiritual journey. Emmanuel left valuable clues that help us understand this mysterious process, and more than that, show us how we can act here and now. After all, life doesn't end in the grave, and the bonds of love we build are never broken by death. Now that you understand the impact of this initial revelation, let's move on to discover why, according to Emmanuel, so many spirits still carry the weight of suffering even after leaving earthly life. Do you believe that? When you close your eyes for the last time, all pain instantly disappears and your spirit finds absolute rest. This idea is comforting, but Emmanuel, the spirit who left profound teachings through the psychography of Chico Xavier, revealed something very different, something that challenges our most intimate certainties. He warns us that, in many cases, death does not erase hurts, dissolve regrets, or eliminate the attachments we carry in life. On the contrary, all of this can accompany us on the spiritual plane, generating suffering that comes not as punishment, but as a direct consequence of the choices, emotions, and attitudes we cultivate here. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because it shows that life beyond death is a faithful mirror of the life we lead on earth. Think for a moment. How often do we harbor resentment, harbor anger, cling to material possessions, or allow ourselves to be dominated by pride? These feelings don't disappear just because the body ceases to exist. Emmanuel explained that the spirit carries all this weight with it, that this emotional baggage can be a source of pain after death. Have you ever experienced this feeling in your heart that someone who has passed away still carries a restlessness, as if they haven't found peace? This perception, often subtle, can be a reflection of a spiritual truth. Our loved ones are still alive. But facing the natural consequences of what they experienced and felt, this is not divine punishment. Spiritual justice does not operate with arbitrary punishments, but rather with the natural law of cause and effect. Emmanuel emphasized that suffering after death arises from the spirit's own conscience. When it awakens and realizes the mistakes it made, the lost opportunities, and the love it failed to offer. This intimate pain is the same we experience here on earth when we regret something, only with a much greater intensity. Because, on the spiritual plane, there is no escaping oneself. It is as if all the masks fall and we finally face, without filters, what we have constructed throughout life. Now imagine someone who lived a life trapped in materialism, accumulating possessions, but without cultivating true bonds of affection. Upon passing away, this person may feel profound anguish upon realizing that nothing they accumulated has any value beyond death. Or think of someone who has passed away harboring grudges, without forgiving or asking for forgiveness. In the spiritual world, this resentment can become a heavy chain, hindering their release. These examples, brought so clearly in Emmanuel's messages, show us that suffering after death is actually an invitation to reflect on how we are leading our lives now. Stay with me until the end, because this reflection can completely change the way you view your own choices. It's shocking, yet also profoundly transformative, to realize that every emotion we harbor today will become part of our tomorrow. Emmanuel teaches us that by cultivating love, compassion, and serenity, we are not only preparing a lighter spiritual future for ourselves, but also helping our loved ones find peace. After all, if the spirit carries the marks of its own actions, it is up to us, still incarnate, to decide what marks we want to leave on our journey, and it is precisely at this point that we begin to understand something even more profound. If spirits still suffer after death, what would be the role of those who remain here, alive on earth? Is there anything we can do to alleviate this suffering and transform pain into light? This is the question that leads us to the next step of this journey. Have you ever wondered if it's possible to help those who have passed away? Do our thoughts, prayers, and even the memories we cherish about our loved ones have any real impact on the spiritual world? This question has haunted humanity for centuries. But according to Emmanuel, the spirit who left profound teachings through Chico Xavier, the answer is clear and powerful. Yes, we can directly influence the journey of those we love after death. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because it reveals that the connection between the living and the deceased isn't severed with their final breath. On the contrary, it remains active, vibrant, and capable of generating comfort, healing, and even liberation. Often, in times of grief, we feel powerless. Physical absence weighs heavily, longing corrodes. The feeling of being powerless to do anything for those who have passed becomes almost unbearable. But Emmanuel invites us to look beyond the immediate pain and understand that life goes on, and with it, the constant exchange of energies between different planes. When we remember a loved one with love, when we offer a sincere prayer, or when we send thoughts of hope, we are, in fact, sending vibrations of light. And this energy reaches them like a balm, capable of easing suffering and strengthening their spiritual journey. Have you ever experienced this? Feeling that a prayer brought peace to your heart and in some way reached the one you love so much? The truth is that prayer is much more than words spoken silently. It is a channel of connection. Emmanuel said that each thought filled with faith and affection is like a current of light crossing invisible boundaries, reaching spirits in need of support. Imagine someone who has passed away full of regrets or trapped in painful memories. Upon receiving this wave of positive vibrations, that spirit feels supported, remembered, and enveloped by an energy that helps them gradually free themselves from the bonds that make them suffer. It's as if each prayer were a bridge between two worlds, making the distance less painful. But it's not just prayer that has this power. Simple actions, performed in memory of those who have passed, are also sources of light. A gesture of solidarity dedicated to someone on behalf of a loved one, a word of comfort to someone suffering, or even the practice of everyday kindness radiate vibrations that transform into positive energy on the spiritual plane. Emmanuel reinforced that these acts are not limited to the material world. They echo and reach those who continue to exist in another dimension. Stay with me until the end, because understanding how our actions here can directly reflect there can completely change the way you approach grief and longing. It's comforting to realize that our hands are not tied in the face of absence. On the contrary, we have powerful tools in our hands to help those we love, even after death. Emmanuel always reminded us that love is the most intense force in the universe, and when transformed into prayer, faith, and fond memories, it becomes true spiritual nourishment. This love transcends distances, overcomes barriers, and becomes a healing bond for both those who have passed and those who remain. And it is precisely here that an essential question arises. If we have this power to help those who have passed, how can we further intensify this connection? What practices can make our prayers and vibrations more effective and welcoming for those so spiritually in need? That's what we'll talk about next. Have you ever stopped to think about how the choices we make every day shape not only our present life, but also our existence after death? This is an uncomfortable but essential question. We often believe that the consequences of our actions are limited to the here and now. But Emmanuel, the spirit who shared profound teachings through the psychography of Chico Xavier, warned us about something much broader. He showed us that every gesture, every word, and every thought carries an impact that transcends visible boundaries, echoing in the spiritual world and determining the path we will take when we leave Earth. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because it reveals that life after death is not only a reflection of who we were, but also of what we can still build from this day forward. We live in an era marked by haste, the relentless pursuit of material gains, and often superficial relationships. It's easy to get lost in the noise of the world and believe that what truly matters are immediate results, but Emmanuel invites us to look beyond the hurried routine and reflect on something greater: the value of the attitudes we cultivate within. Have you ever felt that a seemingly small choice, like forgiving someone or offering selfless help, transformed not only another person's life, but also your own? These are signs that the spirit is strengthened when love, compassion, and spiritual responsibility guide our actions. According to Emmanuel, every positive attitude we nurture here becomes a light that illuminates our future journey. And this light isn't just for us. When we think and act with kindness, we also help those who have already passed, because our vibrations of peace and hope spread like subtle waves, reaching spirits who are often still in the process of learning and liberation. Stay with me until the end, because understanding this point can change the way you approach daily life and even your relationship with loved ones who are no longer physically present. But how can we apply these teachings in today's world, where we are so often tested by haste, selfishness, and indifference? Emmanuel reminds us that true transformation begins with simple gestures, the way we treat those around us, the way we cultivate our thoughts. The choice to maintain faith even in the face of difficulties, all of this builds a spiritual legacy that doesn't end in the grave. Imagine, for example, it's a difference between someone who lives harboring resentment and someone who chooses the path of forgiveness. On the spiritual plane, this difference translates into lightness or heaviness, freedom or imprisonment. The most fascinating thing is realizing that these lessons don't require anything extraordinary. They simply require awareness and a willingness to live with more love and responsibility. Emmanuel showed us that spirituality isn't far from practical life. It manifests itself in every decision we make in the present. When we choose to act with compassion, we're not only helping those around us, but also paving a path of light for ourselves in the future. And this is a powerful reflection. If death doesn't erase what we were, then everything we do now becomes an eternal investment in our spirit, and it is precisely at this point that a fundamental question arises. How can we bring these teachings into daily practice? Transforming our routine into a constant exercise in spiritual evolution. This is the reflection that leads us to the next part of this journey. And perhaps, as you hear these words, something within you is awakening. It could be a memory of someone who has passed away, a reflection on the choices you've made, or even a sense of hope in realizing that we're never alone on this journey. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. Sharing your experience or feeling can be a way to strengthen not only your own journey, but also that of others going through the same process and who may find comfort in reading your story. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of content. When you like this video, YouTube understands this message's value and delivers it to more hearts that need to hear it. And when you subscribe to the channel, you ensure you'll always be connected to reflections that can transform the way we see life and what lies beyond it. It's as if every comment, every like, and every subscription are also a positive vibration, further spreading this chain of light we're building together. So, if you feel this message speaks to you, be sure to interact. Your active presence here makes all the difference, because it shows that we are not alone in this search for understanding and spiritual evolution. And while you reflect on this, we continue to delve even deeper into this journey. Because there are revelations from Emmanuel that can transform not only the way we see the spiritual world, but also the way we live our daily lives. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens behind the scenes of life? When the body falls silent and the soul awakens to another reality, most of us grew up believing that death would be an immediate respite, as if all suffering and dilemmas simply disappeared with our last breath. But Emmanuel, the spirit who accompanied Chico Xavier for so many years and became one of the most respected voices in spirituality, brought a shocking revelation. Many of our loved ones continue to suffer even after passing to the spiritual plane. And this is not because they were condemned or punished, but because they carry within themselves the scars of the choices, emotions, and attitudes they experienced here. This hidden truth shakes our mindset because it challenges a comfortable idea that death is enough to find peace. Emmanuel made it clear that life after life is a continuation, not a sudden cut. The spirit takes with it exactly what it has cultivated: feelings, memories, regrets, and even loves. Death is not a button that erases history, but a portal that confronts us with the true impact of everything we have built. Can you feel the weight of this revelation? It's as if suddenly we realize that every decision we make, no matter how small, will have repercussions on a journey much greater than we imagine. Many people ask, but why do some people still suffer if God is love? Emmanuel responded that spiritual suffering is not punishment, but a natural consequence. Just as in the physical world, when we neglect our bodies and face illness, in the spiritual world, neglect of the soul results in pain that does not disappear immediately. Pride, resentment, materialism, excessive attachment to all of these become invisible chains that hinder the spirit's adaptation after death. Imagine someone who lived harboring hatred or envy. Upon disincarnation, these vibrations remain present, imprisoning the consciousness in a state of profound restlessness. What's most striking is how relevant Emmanuel's message remains. Just look around and see how so many people get lost in the race for status, money, or power, believing that this will be enough to fill their inner emptiness. But, according to him, these same values become burdens when we cross over to the other side. It's at this point that we realize the importance of cultivating higher values. Love, compassion, forgiveness, and spiritual responsibility are not just beautiful virtues, but tools of liberation for today and forever. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic. Think of someone you loved who is no longer with us. Perhaps a mother, a father, a friend, or even a child. How many times have you felt a subtle presence, as if this person were nearby, needing you? Emmanuel explained that many spirits remain connected to family members precisely because they still carry pain and difficulties they cannot overcome alone. The longing we feel, in some cases, is also a call for us to offer our help through prayer, positive thinking, and the conscious sending of good vibes. This revelation invites us to change our mindset. Instead of seeing death as the end, we begin to see it as part of an ongoing journey. And if life is a path that doesn't end at the grave, then every action we take today becomes even more important. It's not just about living well in the present, but about preparing the spirit to face the truth about itself when that moment arrives. And this truth can sometimes be hard, because none of us will be able to escape our true selves. Emmanuel said that in the spiritual realm, there are no masks. Everything we try to hide here is clearly revealed. This may seem daunting, but it's also liberating. If the future depends on what we do now, then we still have time to transform our story. Small choices like forgiving someone, acting kindly without expecting anything in return, or learning to let go of excessive materialism are seeds planted that will blossom peacefully tomorrow. And when we think about loved ones who have passed, this vision gives us a new perspective. They are not just absent. They are in process, learning, transforming, just as we are here, therefore. When Emmanuel revealed that many spirits still suffer after death, it wasn't to frighten us, but to awaken us. He wanted us to understand that life has a greater purpose, and that every step, every thought, and every emotion has a real impact on our eternal journey. This is a lesson that transcends religious or cultural boundaries, because it speaks directly to the human essence. We all seek peace. We all desire happiness. We all yearn for inner freedom. And perhaps most importantly, we understand that we are not alone in this journey. There is a chain of love that connects us to each other, incarnate and discarnate. And this chain can be strengthened by our daily choices. When we choose to vibrate in goodness, we help not only ourselves, but also those who have passed on and who remain connected to us by bonds that death cannot erase. Now, tell me, does all this make sense to you? Comment, this makes sense to me. We often imagine that upon leaving our physical body, everything heavy we carry in life simply dissolves, as if death were an eraser capable of erasing our mistakes, pain, and memories. But the hidden truth revealed by Emmanuel shows something completely different. The spirit takes with it exactly what it built in life. And that is why so many still suffer after death, not because they are being punished, but because they continue to vibrate with the same emotions, thoughts, and attachments they cultivated during their earthly journey. This realization radically transforms our mindset, for it forces us to look within and recognize that our daily decisions shape not only the present, but also the future experience we will have beyond matter. Imagine someone who spent their entire life trapped in materialism, accumulating possessions and living only for momentary pleasure. When they pass away, this spirit no longer finds the objects that once gave them security, but the desire remains burning and unsatisfied. It's like feeling thirsty in a desert without ever finding water. This restlessness is a real suffering, born not of punishment, but of the very inability to let go of what no longer exists. Emmanuel explained that this is one of the main reasons why many spirits wander lost, still attached to their homes, possessions, and even their own bodies, unable to accept that life has changed. Another clear example is that of hurt and resentment. Those who have lived harboring grudges, harboring hatred, or cultivating emotional wounds without seeking forgiveness end up carrying this burden to the other side. And the impact is profound, because these emotions become invisible chains that bind the soul to states of suffering. Think of those situations in which, even in life, we find it difficult to forgive and repeatedly relive the same pain. Now imagine this cycle intensifying on the spiritual plane, without external distractions, without the relief of daily tasks. Everything becomes clearer, more intense, and the hidden truth of who we truly are presents itself before us, and we cannot forget remorse. Perhaps one of the most painful feelings a spirit can carry. How many people, upon passing away, are faced with the realization that they could have done differently? A father who abandons his children, a mother who failed to express love, a friend who failed to forgive, someone who hurt with words or actions and never sought to make amends. Emmanuel said that death does not offer automatic oblivion. On the contrary, it broadens our vision and clearly shows the consequences of the choices we made. This confrontation with one's own history is inevitable, and that is where suffering arises. From the awakened awareness of one's own omissions and mistakes, if we look at our current reality, we realize how these examples are closer to us than we imagine. We live in a fast-paced world, where an excess of information and the relentless pursuit of recognition cause many to lose themselves in comparisons, disputes, and uncontrollable desires. Attachment to status, image, and appearances has become almost a norm. But the moment physical life ends, none of this accompanies the spirit. What remains are true feelings, intentions, and the essence of who we were. This revelation leads us to reflect on how we are conducting our own journey, because deep down, suffering on the spiritual plane is merely a reflection of a life disconnected from what truly matters. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's something Emmanuel always emphasized that can completely change the way we view grief after death. The spirit suffers not for what it lost, but for what it failed to learn. It's like a student who reaches the end of a course and realizes they didn't study, didn't take advantage of opportunities, didn't make the necessary effort. This lack of learning, this delay in evolution, generates a feeling of anguish and regret that can last a long time. And it's precisely this point that shows us how every small decision in life has a gigantic impact on the spiritual experience. When we choose to cultivate forgiveness instead of resentment, we are building foundations of peace that will accompany us after death. When we learn to value people more than things, we are creating a spiritual heritage that is never lost. When we practice compassion and care for others, we are developing strengths that will support us during the journey. This mindset invites us to see life as a constant preparation, not out of fear of what will come, but out of awareness of the continuity of the journey. And there's another revelation Emmanuel shared that deserves our attention. Many spirits remain connected to Earth precisely because they can't detach themselves from their own emotions. This means that while they suffer, they also influence and are influenced by their family members and the environments they frequented. This is why feelings such as longing, prolonged sadness, or excessive attachment can hinder the release of the departed. There's an invisible connection between worlds, and this connection strengthens or weakens depending on the quality of the thoughts and vibrations we emit. If we understand this, we realize that caring for our minds and hearts here is also a way of caring for our spiritual future and even helping those who have already crossed the threshold of death, because their suffering is not eternal, but can be alleviated by the energy of love, prayer, and serenity we send. Inner transformation is not just a personal benefit. It is a contribution to a much larger network, one that involves those we love and who remain connected to us. And it is at this point that we understand that suffering after death is not a distant mystery, but a reality that calls us to responsibility. Every decision we make now is like a seed planted in fertile soil. Some will sprout into flowers of peace, others into thorns of pain, and this will depend on the quality of our choices. This truth may be uncomfortable, but it is also an opportunity for a new beginning. Because while we are alive, we always have the chance to change, to free ourselves from unnecessary burdens, to heal hurts, and to transform our mindset. Right there, I'm on this journey too. When we think of those who have passed, our hearts are often filled with longing, the pain of absence, and even a sense of helplessness in the face of death. It's as if we believe there's nothing more that can be done for them, that the bond has been severed, and that the only choice is to learn to cope with the emptiness. But Emmanuel shows us that this vision is limited, almost superficial. In light of the hidden truth that exists between the two planes, he reveals to us that death doesn't erase the connection. It merely transforms the way it occurs. And that's where we come in. We, the living, play a fundamental role in the journey of our loved ones, not as distant spectators, but as active agents capable of influencing, comforting, and illuminating the path of those still going through phases of suffering on the spiritual plane. The idea may seem surprising at first glance, but it makes sense when we stop and think about it. After all, if our emotions and thoughts directly influence our present lives, why wouldn't they also influence those still connected to us by the invisible bond of love? Emmanuel emphasizes that when we remember those who have passed with affection, hope, and faith, we send a subtle yet powerful energy that functions as light in the midst of darkness. This vibration is not lost. It does not dissipate. It reaches them like a balm, capable of strengthening their journey, soothing pain, and even opening horizons of understanding. Think for a moment about how we feel when someone offers us a gesture of true love. It could be a word of support, a silent prayer, or even a simple positive thought on our behalf. There's an immediate, albeit subtle, impact on our inner disposition. The same occurs on the spiritual plane. The spirit that receives these waves of affection realizes that they are not forgotten. They are not alone, and this brings comfort. Emmanuel said that many spirits remain trapped in suffering because they believe they have been abandoned or that their existence has lost value. But when they receive loving memories, they rediscover that the bond remains and that there are reasons to move forward. This point is crucial. It's not about holding on to those who have passed with endless tears or a yearning laden with despair. Excessive attachment, on the contrary, can become a burden that makes it difficult to let go. True help comes when we remember them with love, without anger, cultivating thoughts of light, and sending sincere prayers. Prayer, when done from the heart, creates a real energetic bridge. It's not just a symbolic or religious act, but a force that travels beyond visible boundaries. Emmanuel always insisted that prayer is one of the most powerful tools we have because it knows no distance. It reaches where it needs to go, at the right time and in the right measure. And don't be fooled into thinking it requires elaborate words or complex rituals. Simple prayer, born from the soul, has incalculable impact. All you need to do is think sincerely, direct positive intentions, and trust in the power being sent. This gesture, when repeated consistently, builds a field of vibration so intense that it can change not only the spiritual state of the recipient, but also our own lives. It's as if each prayer were a brick of light placed on the path of someone we love, making the path safer and less arduous. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this practice is not only a help to those who have passed on, but also an intimate transformation for those who remain. When we choose to remember with gratitude and elevate thoughts of love, we are training our own mindset toward something greater. We are leaving behind the narrow vision that sees death as an end and beginning to see life as a continuation. And this shift has a direct impact on our daily decisions. Choosing to vibrate in the light, even amidst longing, is an exercise that strengthens our personal journey and creates a virtuous cycle where both the living and the deceased benefit. Many of us have experienced an inexplicable sense of peace after praying for a loved one. It's as if a weight has been lifted from our shoulders, as if energy circulates and restores clarity to our hearts. This is no coincidence. It reflects the natural exchange between planes, the invisible reciprocity that unites all spirits in a network of affection and mutual responsibility. Emmanuel explains that when we vibrate positively for those who have passed, we also receive waves of serenity in return. It's a flow of giving and receiving, proving that spirituality is not distant, but a living system of energetic exchanges. And if we reflect carefully, we realize that this practice is a daily opportunity for transformation. Instead of losing ourselves in despair or materialism, we can take an active and conscious stance, assuming the responsibility of contributing to the growth of those we love, even after death. This is one of the greatest examples of true love, continuing to care for the departed even without physical contact, because we understand that the bond is unbreakable. The hidden truth Emmanuel brings us is that love never dies, and prayer is concrete proof of this. When we decide to nurture good vibrations, we are building not only relief for others, but also a legacy of peace that reverberates throughout eternity. This revelation impacts not only the spiritual realm, but also our daily lives. It makes us more aware of the importance of our emotional choices, invites us to heal wounds, and reminds us that, despite physical absence, there is always something we can offer, and perhaps this is one of the greatest consolations. Knowing that our hands are not tied, that there is a path to actively participate in the journey of those we love. This path is made of love, faith, and vibrancy. Every lofty thought, every grateful memory, every sincere prayer transforms into real strength on the invisible plane. It's like lighting a candle in the middle of the night. No matter how small the flame, it illuminates, warms, and guides. Comment there. That makes sense to me. When we look at everything Emmanuel left us in his messages, it becomes clear that spirituality is not just a field of distant revelations or curiosities about what happens after death. On the contrary, it is a daily invitation to transform our way of living here and now. Each lesson he transmitted through Chico Xavier is like a mirror, reflecting not only the fate of departed spirits, but also the impact of our decisions and mindset while we are still on Earth. It's not about waiting for death to understand the consequences of our actions, but about perceiving behind the scenes of this present life, how each attitude, thought, and emotion shapes the journey to come. Many people believe that living spiritually simply means attending temples or following rituals, but Emmanuel reminds us that true spirituality lies in how we treat others, in the care with our words, and in the intention we place in every gesture. He insists that loving, having compassion, and acting responsibly are not just religious virtues, but concrete choices that define the course of the soul. It's as if we were each day writing the pages of the book we will carry beyond death. And this completely changes the way we view everyday life, because it confronts us with the hidden truth that nothing is irrelevant. Every detail has weight and meaning. Imagine, for example, someone who spends their life accumulating hurt, harboring resentment, and indulging in excessive materialism. From the outside, they may even appear successful, but behind the scenes, they are building invisible chains that will hinder their future path. Now, compare this trajectory with that of someone who, despite facing challenges, chooses kindness, practices forgiveness, and seeks to act with love. This second person may not have as many material achievements, but they are building a path of light that goes beyond what the physical eyes can see. Emmanuel shows us that it is in this contrast that the most important revelation lies. We are the architects of our destiny, and each choice is a brick that supports our own eternity. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because Emmanuel's great lesson isn't limited to comforting or clarifying what happens after death. It is, above all, a proposal for a radical transformation of our mindset. It's as if he were telling us, look at the present responsibly, because the future depends on what you plant today. This call confronts us with the need to review our priorities, question our attitudes, and realize that we can't live automatically, guided only by immediacy. Today's fast-paced, distraction-filled world pushes us to forget what truly matters, and it is precisely at this point that Emmanuel's messages become timely and urgent. He reminds us that compassion is not a weakness, but a transformative force. That love is not just a feeling, but a conscious decision to act for the good. That spiritual responsibility is not a burden, but an opportunity for growth. And that, even in small things, we have the power to choose between being a source of light or shadow. When we apply these teachings to our daily lives, we begin to realize that we are not only helping those who have passed away, but also building our own preparation for the moment when we, too, will cross the threshold of material life. This awareness invites us to see each interaction as a chance to leave a positive mark. The hug we give someone in pain, the supportive words offered to someone in need, the respectful silence in the face of conflict, of this accumulates in our spiritual baggage. Emmanuel explains that, on the other side, what we take with us are not possessions, titles, or status, but the sum of our simplest choices. Those that reveal how much we have been capable of loving. It is at this point that spirituality ceases to be theory and becomes practice. A mindset we can apply in traffic, at home, at work, in any scenario in life. And when we stop to reflect on this, we realize that Emmanuel's message is not only comforting, but profoundly transformative. It frees us from the limited view that life is merely a race for fleeting achievements and shows, so that every positive attitude echoes eternally in the spirit. This is the hidden truth that many ignore, but which can change everything when lived consciously. It's not about perfection, but about constant effort to choose the path of light, even in the face of difficulties. With every decision we make, we have the chance to rewrite our story, to retrace our paths, to leave behind the weight of old mistakes and make room for new possibilities. This is the beauty of free will, the opportunity to transform the present to ensure a more harmonious future. And this is not a distant or abstract promise. It is something we can experience now, behind the scenes of daily life. Whenever we choose to act with love and responsibility, right there, I'm on this journey too. If you've made it this far, it's a sign that this reflection truly touched your heart and awakened something within you. And that's exactly why I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel here. With each video, we strive to bring messages that resonate in real life. Reflections that help us better understand our journey and the spiritual world, always in a clear and accessible way. Leave a comment indicating that you made it to the end. Something like, "I'm with you until the end," or "This message was for me," because it's incredible to see how each of you connect with this content. And that makes all the difference in allowing us to continue bringing these messages. If you felt this connection, please like this video. It's a simple gesture that shows we're on this journey together, that we share the same search for understanding and transformation. And you know what's best? There's a video right here that complements this topic. Click and stay with me there, because the discoveries and teachings Emmanuel left us have much more to reveal. You deserve to follow every detail of this journey.